Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is a co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. There's a new theme emerging in the United States. This is a family show, and we can't use the words, but we're going to say that the new theme is F Joe Biden. What's happening is that at college football games, people are chanting this expletive, and it's now also an expletive that's emerged on Twitter. And President Biden has expressed displeasure at all of this. He's not used to people treating him in this way. Trump would have, in his place, would have just shrugged it off. He just couldn't care less. He's lived all his life in New York. He's used to people resorting to expletives at the drop of a hat.
And we know that he's no stranger to such.
And he's no stranger. And even in public, he resorts to expletives. So, and I think it's what's interesting about this. No, of course, you and I, Peter, are civilized people. We don't encourage people to use expletives. But I think it's what's interesting is that I think the Biden administration is generating a great deal of hostility in the public. I think we've talked about the various mandates that he has no constitutional authority to impose. But above all, the hostility that it has harbors towards at least half the population. I mean, it's in speech after speech, including last week's rant about the unvaccinating, but also when he talked at the centenary of the Tulsa riots and at his inaugural address, he's continually berating the racist, KKK supporting, white nationalists, white supremacists, pretty much neo-Nazi half of the country. This hostility in turn generates a hostility on the people against whom this hatred is directed, because it's human nature. I mean, if somebody hates you, you hate them back. And I think that, it may seem like a bit of a joke, this chant, this F Joe Biden chant, but I think it expresses a real resentment against the people in charge of the country at the moment. What do you think?
And this is exactly why I wanted to talk about it, not just because there's a word like that being used. I find using that kind of language in public, it shows that you have a limited vocabulary, but that's another issue. But I think there's this real perception that the half the country is being steamrolled. And I think this is the reaction to it. I mean, they talk about, we've talked about how the DOJ was politicized under the Trump administration, against the Trump administration. Right. And now we have the Biden DOJ that is targeting half the country. Right. And you and I talked about this with thumbs up, thumbs down. I mean, co-mingling of 9/11 sentiment and January 6th, which I find abhorrent. Okay, yep. The first one brought people together. The second one is a dividing line that it seems to be impossible to overcome. And so, F Biden is the reaction of people that feel powerless. That's what they're left with.
Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's right.
And there's no recognition inside the administration. There's so many moving pieces at the same time. They know they're in deep trouble electorally. I mean, the way things stand right now, he's way underwater in the polls. And so that gives the impetus for them to steamroll even more. Okay, it's like you keep the ship is going down, and you're keeping an eye on that lifeboat. Okay, because they know they're in trouble.
Right. No, so, that's right.
And it builds up this tension more and more and more. Yep. Because there's the thing is that what the Biden people don't understand is that their rhetoric only reinforces their coalition. It's not talking to anyone else. They're talking inward. And that is the biggest mistake you can make right now, because, George, it's a 50-50 split. I mean, if it was 60-40, 70-30, it'd be totally different. But I mean, it is so tight right now, and they're basically, you know, thrown down the gauntlet, and what they're most concerned with is keeping their coalition as tight as possible.
Right. No, I think that's right, and I think it was a story. I think it was in the Washington Post today, and the thrust of it was a kind of gloating, saying, "Well, the Democrats were afraid of Donald Trump. Now they welcome Donald Trump because they're going to use the slogan Donald Trump in order to generate their base. In other words, by bringing up Donald Trump, Trump is coming back. You know, these people are all followers of Trump. They think they can just generate enough fear, hatred, animus to get people to the polls. That's their strategy, and that's what is generating this kind of response. And I think that this kind of hostility, you know, as you say, normally political leaders, they try to build coalitions. You know, you want to say, okay, well, we've got our supporters. Now we've got to peel off some of the supporters from the other side. It was a sort of famous, Bill Clinton's famous triangulation strategy that he came up with Dick Morris after the 1994 midterm debacle. Okay, well, now I'm going to make my appeal to the people who usually vote for the Republicans. But here, they're just simply going, you know, we're going to make it as narrow as possible and get people to the polls. So the people who are generally might not vote, they're going to vote by saying, hey, Trump is coming for you. He's going to do these terrible things for you. So that's the strategy. And of course, it is generating this kind of hostility.
It's not going to work. It's
I don't think so either.
Because I mean, look, you know, what was that famous sign that Snowflake graduate school student was saying? You know, if Hillary had won, we'd be eating brunch. Okay, I remember that very clearly. I guess that's why I'm obsessed with brunch. But a negative isn't enough to keep their coalition together, get them out there. Trump's coalition, it's a very, very different story, okay? Because they're bereaved, they feel they've been cheated. The issue of abortion again is, you know, it cuts both ways electorally. And so what the conservatives, what the GOP is doing, and I think to some degree of success, is just the pure lunacy of some of the things that they're promoting. I mean, you and I talk about it all the time. I mean, they want vaccine mandates with an open border. I mean, you don't have to be politically very acute to say, look, that doesn't really make any sense, does it? I mean, who are these people from Afghanistan? Who are they?
That's right.
You have to have a mandate. But what about them? Don't talk about them. Okay, you don't have to be a political like us.
Yes.
To say that's weird. That doesn't make any sense.
No,
and
that's
and you know what? It doesn't make any sense.
No, I think that's right. And I think why Trump's platform, which is bringing jobs back, that has an ability to appeal to those who are not traditional Republican voters. And I'm bringing jobs back, you know, through trade barriers, through a tight labor market. Essentially, you know, I'm trying to bring in manufacturing. That, and you know, he did pretty well. You know, he increased his vote among Hispanic voters. Did better among them than he did in 2016. Significantly better among them than did Mitt Romney or John McCain. So yeah, I mean, I think that is a way of building coalitions. As you say, if you're just going to be as narrow as possible and think that, you know, you by you know, getting people to the polls, you're going to just get you over the top, it isn't going to work.
Well, and also, see, this fear element, this fear mongering, it's a double-edged sword, because when you see, I mean, even on CNN and MSNBC, they can't hide the fact that Mr. Biden is having problems, okay? Right. That creates fear in people too, okay? Is okay, this guy, you know, he's not dealing with a full deck here. I'm trying to be polite, and his in waiting, and she's even worse.
Yes.
Okay, that creates a sense of uncertainty in leadership that works very much against the Democrats here.
Right.
I mean, you know, you and I should do a separate video on this, because in many ways the presidency is very ceremonial, but that ceremony is very important. Don't underestimate it.
Right.
You have to be able to pull it off.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think that those images of Biden on 9/11, when he takes his mask off and just yells something at somebody.
Get off the grass!
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it looks like the irate old man, hey, get off my lawn, so on. So, and that combined with those bizarre whispering that he goes in for. Remember when last week, when he did that, get vaccinated, which is, he looks like some, horrible monster. So, all of that kind of creates the impression of somebody that, hard to think of as our leader. This is our president.
Yeah, and I'm loath to say anything good about George W. Bush, seriously. But when, because we were talking about the 20th anniversary of 9/11, when he went to Ground Zero and he was with the firefighters and he had that megaphone, he did inspire people.
He did, right. That was his one moment. I mean, no one's ever really been able to come up with one other moment from George W. Bush other than when he went down Ground Zero and he was talking on the megaphone with the firemen. Yeah, he was then impressive. Well, one time, it's like, I don't know, some fluke, which often happens, a fluke. But everything else after that was a disaster.
He's got one. Where's Jones? Okay, we didn't want to do this just for clickbait, everyone. Okay, swearing in public and all that. But what we're trying to convey here is this shows a besieged mentality, and they're just doubling, tripling down. And they're not reaching out across the aisle. And they're doing this at their great, great grave peril. Because with the country, and plus, as George and I have said, when you look at January 20th, the vaccine was being rolled out, okay? The checks had already been cashed and the economy was set to roar. I mean, talk about being given something on a silver platter. And this administration has screwed up both in a big, big way, with open borders, by the way. And I didn't put Afghanistan on the top. Be patient, folks. George and I will prove our point.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, ultimately, he is making an absolute hash of things. And his resort is the blunderbuss approach. So, for instance, he's again going back to trying to get rid of the filibuster. He's trying
to come in or you going. You coming or you going?
Yeah, you get rid of the filibuster. So to pass this Voting Rights Act, he's doing this. He's trying to get this $3.5 trillion budget through, even though he's having problems within his own party. I mean, with Joe Manchin. So even on that, he's making a complete mess of this because they keep antagonizing Joe Manchin. He's going to leave. He's in West Virginia, his state, and Trump won that by something like 70% of the vote. If he goes and switches over to the Republicans, which he could easily do, he will probably secure his re-election. That's it. The Republicans are now in control of the Senate, and that's the end of that. And Vice President Harris will no longer be the casting vote. So keep it up. Just keep up all this antagonism to Manchin, and you'll see what happens.
I don't want to sound like the Grim Reaper or anything, but Dianne Feinstein, she's not a spring chicken. Okay, right. If Larry Elder, it's unlikely, but if Larry Elder becomes governor and that seat opens up, right. What we're trying to convey here, this is razor thin. You right. cannot have this kind of rhetoric coming out of the White House when it gets down to one or two people.
Right. Yeah. No,
it's never been done before. Never.
No.
You know why? Because it doesn't work.
That's right. That's exactly right.
All right, we're going to keep our eye on On Joe Biden, not particularly that word. Okay. All right, everybody, we're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. We've rescheduled. I'm going to try to make it a tradition, certainly a tradition, doing a super chat on YouTube every Friday at 1 o'clock Eastern time in the US. George, you have a live stream coming up?
Yeah, I got to like that. Yes, the super chats we do 12 p.m.
I'm sorry.
Standard Time, yeah. But my live stream will be at 1 p.m. I know it's confusing, but there'll be notices on the locals board, so not to get.
We also are doing Zoom calls with Gaggler, so please check our page and see how to do that. The merchandise store is up. As we sign off here, we're going to do a Q&A, so that'll be up later today. And buddy, do you want to talk about the tip jar, or do you want to stay there? Oh, one up. Okay. We have the. Take it away, George.
There he is. The tip jar, which is what he really cares about most in the world, which is understandable. And he worries a lot. It keeps him up at night about the state of the tip jar. Its empty state. So please, whatever you can contribute would be most welcome, most appreciated. We don't have billionaires bankrolling us, so we rely on the kindness, generosity of fellow guys.
You just have a chihuahua licking my ear.
Exactly. He's making his feelings known about the tip jar. So, and remember, if you like the gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.